Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vivi and today we are talking about managing your emotions. Okay, if you've been here for a while, you have been watching but not liking and subscribing. Like, what are we doing? Just come and join the channel. Like, just come and watch, come and like and subscribe, and definitely do that. Anyway, today we're talking about managing your emotions. I have dropped my adulting videos. They're part 1 and part 2 because it was very long and I thought the part 1 and part 2 were really cool. And in those videos, I talk about how managing emotions is a skill set and how I really wanted to make a video on that. And this is that. This is me creating the video on that. The reason why I'm talking about this is because it was a light bulb moment for me. So I am oversharing on the internet. That's how it is. It was a light bulb moment for me. So hopefully if this helps you, then drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop some comments. Tell me your thoughts about this. First things first, the statement managing your emotions is a skill set baffled me. Baffled me. And the reason why it baffled me is because for the longest time I used to tell my husband, like, I'm just a deep feeler. I feel my feelings extremely deeply. I'm an empath. I just have a lot of empathy and all these things. And I was trying to describe this to him because he was asking me questions like, what does that even mean to you? Like, what does being a deep feeler even mean, right? And I was trying to describe it to him and he was like, but managing your emotions is a skill set. And I was like, whoa, sir, excuse me, what? He's like, yeah, like if you think about it, I said this again in my adulting videos, but I'm gonna say it here because this is the topic that we're talking about. If you allow yourself to feel any emotion, positive or negative, on the end of that spectrum, like on the most extreme level that emotion could possibly provide you, that is not a good thing. If you're happy to the point where you're almost manic, not a good thing. If you're depressed to the point where you cannot get out of bed or so sad that you can't even move your body, you can't even think straight, that is not a good thing, right? And managing your emotions is the in-between. It's not the extremes, really. It's not the outliers. And I'm not specifically talking about anybody that has any mental illness or things that are like a chemical imbalance. I'm talking about just people in general, just talking about emotions and dealing with them on a day-to-day basis, right? And that part is the in-between. And for the longest time, I used to always feel like every emotion, positive or negative, was like an avalanche. Like, just cue the avalanche.
Oh God. Oh dear God.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. An avalanche. Like just coming down on me. If I was happy, the happiness just dropped down on me. If I was sad, the sadness just fell down on me. If I was even apathetic, where it's not really even indifference, and then everything just always felt like it was an avalanche. And for the longest time, I used to feel like, oh, well, it's maybe because of my background, or maybe it's because of my way of being, or maybe because I'm the oldest, like whatever. I was trying to attribute to so many things that just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And it didn't dawn on me that the reason why it always felt like an avalanche is because I was never taught how to manage them. I was never taught how to manage them. For starters, knowing why you're feeling what you're feeling is imperative. If something is happening, or you get triggered by something that you probably didn't know that was going to trigger you, or you're having an experience with somebody and then all of a sudden you have this emotion that just like kind of falls on you, you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel a different type of way. Like, my vibes are off. Like, this is getting different. Knowing why it's happening is important. The reason why it's important is because if you don't know why, then of course it's going to feel like an avalanche. And then when an emotion is happening within us, we start to think about it. We start to give it energy. We start to almost fully encompass ourselves in that emotion. And that's the reason why it's extremely hard to get out of it, because then you're stuck wallowing and dwelling in the emotion that really you shouldn't be doing that anyway to begin with. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is not going to help you.
I also wanted to mention, I didn't really say it in the video, but I wanted to mention, I'm a firm believer in feeling your feelings, but not dwelling in your feelings. I kind of say it, but I don't really say it. And I just wanted to say that, like, you can feel your feelings. You can still feel your feelings very deeply, but you do not have to, or you almost shouldn't dwell in any feeling for too long. Yeah, I just wanted to add that in there. Okay, back to the video.
Questioning yourself, why do I feel this way? Did this person say something to me that made me feel this way? Did something happen? Did I think about something? Like, that's really a tricky thing. I think another thing that's very important about managing your emotions, the number one thing is the amount of time you spend either feeling that emotion or thinking about that emotion. I can think my way into any emotion. I can think my way out of any emotion. I can convince myself of anything. If I want something to be the way that I want it to be, I can confirm my own bias by just thinking like, or just convincing myself, or just saying the same thing over and over again. That's the same thing with emotions. Emotions now, it's a little bit trickier because it is also encompassed by your chemicals, by your physiological, like how are you physiologically feeling or being based on how you feel. Like I got to a point when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I'm not a confrontational person. I stand my ground. Don't get it twisted. I don't want to be walked all over, and I hated the idea of being taken advantage of, but I'm not confrontational. I remember being in middle school, somebody that was trying to be like confrontational with me. And even though at the end of that situation, I was fine, like there was something that came of it, we didn't fight, we didn't argue, like this person said their piece and I said my piece and that was it. But I came home physically ill. I was like, what happened to you? And I tell her everything and she goes, yeah, Vivianie, you're just not somebody who can deal with confrontation. You need to address that within yourself. Like you cannot be somebody who's just out here dealing with confrontation. And it took me the longest time to understand that, but my body was literally telling me, oh, we don't like this. I literally came home sick, vomiting, I'm all over the place. She goes, do you have a stomach virus? And my mom's a nurse, so she's thinking medically, what the hell is wrong with you? But it was a physiological response to the fact that I'm not a confrontational person at like 13. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like knowing why is very important. Question why you're feeling what you're feeling. Understand your thoughts also. Like if you're thinking about that emotion and you're constantly thinking about it and you're constantly just always, it's on your head, it's on your mind, and you start to act according to your thoughts, that's giving it energy. Figure out why you're feeling with that emotion, and if it is something that you have to challenge and deal with, then you do that. But if it is a situation where you're sitting here just wallowing and thinking and just all that, giving it energy is thinking about it all the time, 25/8. So those things are also why it's feeling as strong as it is. So when I started to actually think about why I was feeling what I was feeling, I started to be like, oh, okay, this is making a little bit more sense. Oh, this triggered me. Why does it trigger me? Figuring that out, ironing that out. And as I started to do those things stopped feeling so deep, I guess. The deep feeler that I said I was, I started to be like, oh, this is not even that important anymore. The importance of that emotion stopped happening. And I didn't have to deal with the aftermath, maybe a physiological response to a negative or even a positive emotion. Next thing about managing emotions is you have the control. You decide what you feel and how long you feel it for. And oh, I feel like I'm gonna ruffle some feathers. I feel the feathers ruffling. It's true though. You decide what you feel and how long you feel that emotion. You are the active participant in feeling the emotion. So what are you gonna do about it? The same way how you're sitting here wallowing in the feelings and dealing with the feelings and thinking about the feelings and giving the feelings energy and that roller coaster that you're putting yourself on, you're literally locking yourself into that roller coaster. The same way you can get off the roller coaster. Some things you cannot just get over. I don't want to make it seem like you could just get over every single emotion. I'm talking about the things that trigger you or things that happen and you immediately respond on the most extreme end. You hear the statement 0 to 100, that's what I'm talking about. Like there's no reason for you to be going 0 to nothing. Like if there's no reason for you to be at a place where you're calm or you're content or you're okay to 100 in either spectrum of emotions, because well, why? Certain things are great. Celebratory situations, like when something happens to you and you're like, oh my God, like I want to celebrate, I'm happy, I'm gonna dance, I want to celebrate this, that's fine. But still, there's a limit to those things. And the same thing with sadness. It's like, oh, I'm dealing with this. I broke up with my boyfriend recently. This is what's happening. Or I lost my friend, or I lost my mom. And grief is one of those emotions though. I have to make a whole video on grief by itself, because the grief is not an emotion that I feel like you could just power your way through. There's a lot of things I think you could power your way through, but grief, for example, specifically like a loss of a loved one, I think that is the one emotion that I feel like has a little bit of an asterisk for me on this topic. But all the other things, you have a choice. Even grief, you do decide how long you feel that emotion. There are things you can actively do to help make certain things easier. And if you choose to make certain things harder for you by keeping yourself in that headspace, in that feeling, that is a choice. And recognizing that is a choice is extremely, it is one of those things that I think is invaluable. Because once you recognize, oh, I'm making the choice to be here, I'm making the choice to feel this, you can easily be like, all right, I'm not doing this no more. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. And you can actively work towards doing those things. Understanding what you feel and how long you feel it is the skill. Saying, okay, I want to do something different, that's the skill. That's the whole skill. Or saying, okay, I'm feeling this right now, I'm gonna give myself 10 seconds or whatever time. I'm not saying 10 seconds is enough. I'm just using that as a generic number. Please don't come for me. But yeah, like I'm gonna give myself a certain amount of time to work this out. That is the skill. That's the skill. That's the secret. That's the sauce. Because, well, what other things are there? You only can control yourself. So that part is the actual skill. Learning to not take certain things personally can probably prevent you from feeling things that you don't even want to be feeling in the first place. We live in our own self-created echo chambers. Everybody feels like somebody's looking at them. Nobody's really paying attention to the other person. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do something because I don't want everybody to look at me. I don't want to do this thing because I don't want somebody to pay attention to me. Everybody's thinking the same exact thing. So you're thinking you don't want somebody looking at you. The next person next to you is thinking the exact same thing. They're not thinking that you're looking at them. They're thinking that they don't want you to look at them. So it's like, when somebody does something to you, or when you realize there's an interaction that you're having with somebody and it goes bad, it may not even be about you. Like, projections are a thing. People project things all the time, 25/8. And I think that sometimes when you recognize that certain things that are being projected onto you has a lot more to do with that person and their individual experience in this life and has really nothing to do with you, I think that's where you understand grace a little bit more, not only for yourself, but for the other person. Oh, I didn't realize that what I said or what you are saying to me has nothing to do with me. Understanding not to take things personally is extremely important. If you can eliminate not putting yourself in a compromising predicament to feel anything specifically negative in an interaction with another person, that can prevent you from even having to deal with the emotions that you don't want to be dealing with in the first place. Like, yes, people like to throw, we're adults. Everybody should be able to do that, or everybody should be able to do certain things. We're adults. Yeah, adults that did not know how to manage their emotions. Never learned it. It is a skill set. Learn it. Because if you learn what triggers you and you learn more about yourself and you become more developed within yourself, then you're able to interact with other people with the best version of yourself. Which usually 9 times out of 10 is probably not going to be somebody who's projecting, or probably not going to be somebody who's negatively trying to make somebody else actually feel bad. And another thing, key word in that sentence that I just said is make. Nobody can make you do nothing. You have free will. You can do whatever you want to do. You have free will. So if somebody is saying something to you and you're like, oh, well, this did not make you do nothing. You've internalized that and now you are feeling something, and you can change that feeling in an instant because you make your decisions on your life at every instance in your existence. You are the commander, the writer, the director, the alpha, the omega of your life, and what you feel is your responsibility. Don't get me twisted. It doesn't account for the outliers. This does not account for mental health. This does not account for, things that are a lot more robust than just having a bad interaction. I'm talking about the general, probably the more average person. I'm not talking about the outliers in this situation. And that is extremely important to say, because I feel like people could just take that and be like, oh, well, this person what about this example? We're not doing that. We're talking about the general emotion. Every specific thing, what I'm saying is not specific, tailored to every single circumstance. Things are nuanced. Understand that when I'm speaking, hopefully. And yeah, I think those are the things, like managing your emotions. It's a skill set. My husband dropped that gem on me and I was like, oh, I gotta share. Like, and I've been doing this. Like, I realized that I used to take a lot of things personally. I used to say a lot of things that probably were projections or even hurt other people, and I didn't even realize that it was me hurting in the first place. Hurt people is a real thing. So if you're hurting and then you're hurting somebody else and you're not even realizing that, and then taking accountability for those things are very important. So now that I've been applying these things, like deciding what I feel, deciding how long I feel things, learning not to take things personally, has been something that I realized was actually really big for me. I didn't realize how many things I actually took personally, and I think that also wasn't that I was like egotistical or just so like into myself that, oh my gosh, it's about me. It was just like, oh, did I do something wrong? Like, it was like that kind of taking things personally. Like, I didn't expect that reaction. I thought I was saying something this way, or I didn't expect this. Like, recognizing those things and just realizing like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. Realizing the things that have nothing to do with you protect you. I'm like, oh, you have your own stuff going on, baby. That got nothing to do with me. And I just move on in my life and I just manage my emotions in that way. So these are things I've been doing. This is the aha moment that I came to. And if I ruffle some feathers, baby, I'm sorry. But I said what I said. I said what I said.
If I wanted to say that, I would have wrote it. You implied that. I said what I said.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway, thank you for watching this video this long. If you've been to the end, drop down in the comments and drop down a red heart emoji if you've been here this long and you watched at the end of the video. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching my video. If you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I have a plethora of videos out right now, so if you like this one, I definitely think you're gonna like my indecision video. I think you're also gonna like my adulting videos, so I will tag everything in the cards. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day at any point that you're seeing this, night, day, morning, whatever. And I'll see you next week. I will see you next week. We are in here. Yeah. Bye, guys.